Okay, I'm going to make a video of the warm-up that I use in my yoga class when I'm teaching, and I'll kind of cue through as I teach it, and then I'll say why I do the pose and the purpose that it serves whenever I'm looking at people. So we always start obviously in Sukhasana. So when I start in Sukhasana, right away I'm observing how people are sitting in Sukhasana, where their knees are. Is it comfortable for them? Do they look like they're uncomfortable? So if they do, then I go ahead and give them a blanket to sit on, or I may say, if you're not comfortable, go ahead and grab the blanket that you have there and just go ahead and sit on it, because sometimes people are unsure when even to use the props. So then we'll have some circles. So whenever I'm asking them to come here, I'm looking to see if they can take this as a circle and a hip hinge as they come forward, or if it turns into this kind of an action. So if I see kind of all over the place, when we go the other direction, I may say, I really want you to feel the hinge at the hips as you come forward, and just see if that improves the movement. So we'll do those. And then the hands, I'll have them bring the hands out to the side, bring an arm up, and then I ask them to reach from the hip socket all the way up and then come over to the side. So what I'm watching for is, do they have the ability to do this, or does it turn into this, which is not what I'm cueing, and it's not what I'm showing, but sometimes that's what I get. So again, that just gives me information that maybe my cues either are not such that they can put their body there, or they just are not too sure where that arm is. So that's just information for me. And then the next one is a rotation. So I generally, the first one, I will have them come across, fingertips come behind, and I'm looking to see if they have the ability to rotate in the bowl of their pelvis, or if it turns into this kind of a rotation. So if it winds up being what to me is like a lopsided rotation, then the other side, then that's whenever I'll have a chance to talk about being tall from the midline and come into rotation. And then generally I'll have people switch legs because I want to see what the other side can do, the other hip. And again, it's a nice warm up. People usually have one side that they sit with all the time and one side that they don't. And then we'll go through the same sequence. So now I'm looking to see, did they figure out that I'm asking for this rotation to happen from almost like stirring the torso, stirring the bowl of the pelvis. And then the second time through with the side, I'll have people come over and actually lift the arm up, because I want to see when they lift it up, does the whole shape collapse, or can they lift it and keep the integrity of the shape? And I want to see if they can do that on both sides. So they'll come over, and a lot of times one side will come up, no problem, and the other side you'll see this collapse. So again, that just gives me information, and I'm hoping that gives them information in their body that one side is perhaps not as stable in the core as the other side. And then for the second rotation, I'll generally have them come here and then add the hands, because now this one takes a little bit more of, do you know where you are, instead of this one. So again, what I'm looking for is, do they have the ability to do that, or does it turn into this kind of lopsided rotation? Okay, so that's the seated one, and then we go into cat-cow. So I like to use cat-cow to see what they're gonna feel like on their hands and knees. and to see what the spine does. So generally cat for most people goes well, it's cow that generally doesn't go so well. So again, that gives me a teaching opportunity to teach flexion and to teach extension. And it gives them a chance to attach breath to movement. So we'll come there. And then from there, I'll have them send a leg forward into low lunge, just to see what that looks like in people. Do they have the ability to keep the torso lifted? So we'll generally start here. And then depending on who's in the class, arms come up. If there's several new people, I just show the first one here, just to give them that sense of we're really wanting to be tall in the torso. And we'll do both sides. And come forward, and I do usually have them come that direction, just like this, because that's how they're going to be able to step forward and step back. So it kind of starts that thought in their head. Can they do that? Or is that a struggle? And that's good information for them and for me. And then from there, we'll come to child's pose. So this is my first chance to see what the arms are going to look like overhead. And if I look and I see heads that are hanging down, then I can cue for a block to come up. This is a nice opportunity for me to see what the hip hinge is going to look like as they go back. Can the butt go back to the heels, or is that not even an option in their body? And then we'll go to down dog. And this is a place again for me to be able to teach down dog. I'll have them come forward. I'll talk about the length of the dog and not to move their hands or their feet as they make their way back. And then I'll have them step to the top. I generally ask them to do 1 foot at a time, just to see, can they come to the top of the mat, or does it turn into that kind of an action? So then I'll know that stepping up is going to be more challenging for them. And then I'll have them rise. And this is where I'll cue about the feet being underneath the hip sockets and where the legs are in relationship to the pelvis. And we'll come into Tadasana. And this is the point where I'll try to get people into what Tadasana feels like. Not here, but arms relaxed to the side, extending. And I'll usually tell them this is the crown of the head back here, lengthen up, and just to feel the shape. But the big thing for this one, for me, for beginners that I see, is I usually see this. So it gives me a great opportunity to talk about where the feet should be in relationship to the pelvis. The next thing that I do is, I love these egg blocks, but a thin yoga block does the same thing. Is I'll have them put it between the groins, and we'll use either a stretch band or a yoga strap. Both will work, and usually I do 2 sets. The first set is with a yoga strap, the second set is with a stretch band. And then I can teach them hug to the midline, scrub away with the feet so they feel inner thigh and outer hip. And this is also where I'll talk about, if you hug to the midline, it turns the kneecaps in. If you scrub away, it lines the kneecaps back up with the ankle. So everything winds up in alignment. And then I ask them to keep the legs, and then the arms come up and over. And I like this one because then I can look and see if somebody comes up and I see, I know that the arms coming overhead is going to be a challenge for them. So then I know that I'm going to need to cue hands at the heart a lot, and maybe even go up to that person and say, just keep your hands down if it's your first class. This is another opportunity for me to talk about the rib cage staying down towards the pelvis, because invariably, especially my very first students, this is what I'm going to see. I'm going to see that action, and so that gives me a chance to either go up and tell them I want the ribs to stay down if the verbal cueing hasn't worked, or turn to the side just like this and just say, this is what I want to see. and I'll show them the misalignment where they're leaning backwards, and then say what we want is the rib cage pointing down. And I find shoulder flossing to be a valuable exercise, and we do it in every class because I don't think people get enough shoulder work in their regular jobs, in their regular life. So that's one of the warm-ups that I do. And then the next warm-up that I do is I do a wide forward fold to garland. And so people in my class always have 2 yoga blocks and an egg and a strap. So for my brand new people, I'll cue them to put the yoga block at the back of the mat. We step back wide stance. And again, this is a great place for me to look at their feet. You know, do they have parallel feet? Invariably it's this, so I can talk about that parallel foot. And then I can talk about the hinging at the hips and hands at the hip sockets on the front of the body. Feel those deepen. Fingertips come down. We come here. And then from here we come into garland pose. So I'll just have them heel toe their feet together and come down. So for my brand new people, they just sit on those blocks. For the people who have come to my class or have the ability to come down, they just drop down. I love garland pose because, again, it teaches you so much, but this is a pose that I feel like people just do not get enough hip strength in their daily activity, so this is a way to at least put it in their yoga class. So we usually do 2 garland poses as part of the warm-up in my class. For the people that just really can't even come to the yoga block or that are afraid to come to the yoga block, I'll have them come up against the wall. And so they basically, and because I do have people that are fearful of coming into garland pose, and that's okay. So they can just come here, at least they're still getting some strengthening for the hips, and then they can slide up. So then from there, we usually come into sun salutation A, but that's typically my warm-up for almost every class I teach. Sometimes, depending on what the lesson is, I will throw something else in there. If we're doing shoulders as the lesson, then there may be a lot more shoulder opening, but at the basic, that's my warm-up. So if you have anything else that you think would be good to put in there, please let me know. If anything that would be a better cueing, let me know that as well. So